Hello and welcome to the Brick News, the weekly show on all things brick building, where we talk about set updates and announcements from all the major brands, mocks of the week, and I think we have a reading recommendation as well. Information is presented as always by ZHEGAO.org, the best source for set information on the internet, with nowadays almost 24,000 different sets from 70 different brands in 66 categories. So there's a lot of stuff to explore in the database. Just check out ZHEGAO.org. What we are also maintaining, by the way, is, for instance, a list of conventions, kind of a calendar, if you will, of at least some of them, in case you are missing any of those, or if you're missing any sets or brands, stuff like that. Just let me know, drop me an email, info@merlinsbricks.com, and I will check that out and add it to the list. So, however, we are now starting with set updates, and here we will start with BAKA. Here we have another set from the Valley Twilight series. Gallery of You is the name, 33241. 3,950 pieces. This is again not a small set, 40 by 30 centimeters or almost 17 by 11.5 inches. And you can buy this one in China starting from around $80 US. As always, when I talk about pricing, of course, shipping is something to be considered, so you have to check this out depending where you live. Your price may vary. However, it is a new set from this series. So BAKA has done, I think, to this point released, or I have in the database 7 sets. I think there's even one or two still missing, and all of these are very, very large. So starting from 2,000 pieces, but even going up to 7,000 pieces. And I guess the idea is to have kind of an elven village. Of course, I think it's highly influenced by a lot of the Rings architecture from the movies. Like this could be a Rivendell potentially, but in general, I think it's kind of a high fantasy elvish vibe to it. But I think at the end of the day, it depends on what you believe it is. And this is what it's actually going to be. So if you're interested in that, I think this is one of the largest series that we currently have on the market. This should be even larger at this point than BlueBrixx, a Blaustein Castle series. Speaking of such, here we have the next extension for Blaustein Castle, the Fortress Points, 108932, relatively small set, 809 pieces. To be honest, based on the piece count, it almost feels like you should be able to build only one of these, but I think it's not a 3-in-1 set. So I don't know, some people wrote in the comments, hey, this must be a 3-in-1 set, it's only 800 pieces, but I think you can build all 3 of them. I don't think that you have to buy it 3 times, but that's something maybe to consider. I'm not 1% sure. Maybe check out the BlueBrixx website. What I can tell you is that, yeah, I think these are amazing extensions. As always, with the Blaustein Castle series, or the concept from the very beginning has been that you go through the ages with the castle. So, right, with all the extensions, I think at this point we should be beyond 30,000 pieces in this thing. And of course, you know, over the time, it not only got bigger, but also the architecture changed over like the centuries of a typical Middle European / German castle from back in the day. And I think this extension shows this very clearly again. You know, we're now in the canon day and age, and so the castle added these points to be able to better defend it. So yeah, much more modern architecture now on the defensive side of the castle. We are now almost in the age where the castle typically in Europe started to lose its function as a defensive point, you know, because with more and more modern cannons and artillery, they became like a big target in the landscape, but no longer anything that could provide you with any kind of protection. I think especially around First World War, this is basically when finally this entire concept of castle as a fortress came to an end. Anyhow, 108932, the new BlueBrixx set. And then we can make this very quick. There's another set that BlueBrixx has decided to recreate, this time as a BlueBrixx Pro set. 108370 is the new one. It's called the British Compact Car. Of course, this is a Rover Mini, and with the with this specific design, I guess they picked up the idea or the famous show of Mr. Bean over here in Europe. And I think that was the idea originally of this BlueBrixx special set, 105608. And now they recreated it as a Pro set. It seems to be more or less the same set, but because it's Pro now, it means you get paper instructions instead of digital. You have different pieces, not Kunlong, but a ZHEGAO instead, typically. Of course, I haven't built the set yet, so I can't confirm this 100%, or I'm not 1% sure at this point, but I'm pretty sure it is. And however, what is I think also a big difference, and this of course is interesting for a car, is that you have now pad printed pieces. Usually that's what BlueBrixx ships with their BlueBrixx Pro sets, so no stickers. That is to be expected, and of course that helps for the car console as well as the license plates. But next to that, it should be exactly the same set. Then we have the announced or no availability of another BlueBrixx playset 108284. So this is, like the name suggests, a series from BlueBrixx with kit sets, like what you would call on the Lego side a Lego City set. 2 minifigures, 360 pieces. BlueBrixx is asking for $20. As always, with BlueBrixx pricing or general with European shops, please keep in mind that this always includes value add tax. Then they have available, I think this is a set I never talked about before, the Flying Scotsman 108477. I think this locomotive is one that we have seen with several sets. So BlueBrixx has done the Flying Scotsman 103481 in the past. So now they have this upgraded version. And of course, Kobe wants to make a Flying Scotsman that actually I'm personally really looking forward to. In fact, I've already pre-ordered this one. However, this BlueBrixx version is also quite nice by Pascal Design, 1,315 pieces. This is out of the Brixx line by BlueBrixx, which is the kind of, if you will, BlueBrixx special kind of set, but they call them, when it's in part of the train series, they call it Brixx. But it's BlueBrixx special, so we assume Kunlong pieces, no back separation, and only PDF instruction. So you don't get that much, let's say, quality of life features with the set, but you get all the bricks and the design, and this, I guess that is what most and foremost matters, and you pay only $60, 4.6 cents a piece. Also available now also as a BlueBrixx Pro set, so it's the Pirate Island set Port Tavern 108326. I talked about this in the past. Again, this is one of the series where BlueBrixx is migrating the series from BlueBrixx Special to BlueBrixx Pro, you know, with colored instructions and colored box and all this kind of stuff. This one here is now available with 1,406 pieces, 4 minifigures, $65, 4.6 cents a piece. Not too bad. Pirate Island, the series, the concept, I've talked about this in the show for years and years. So basically it's a highly modular series. You can see this here. So every set is made out of a lot of modules, which means you can combine them, rearrange them, basically build your own Pirate Island world in this case. And as it is common with such series, they have like the two sides of the coin. So you have kind of the Royal Marines or Navy kind of stuff, sets, and then you have the Pirate Islands on the other side. So here, for instance, is shown, I think this should be 3 or 4 sets, how you could combine these together into your own world. With that, we're moving on to Stargate on Planet 108211. Is now also available. So I did talk about the set, I do believe. When did I do this? Beginning of April, just a couple of weeks ago. So not much to add. We now have a price point though, $40, 6 cents a piece. With that, we're done with BlueBrixx. Moving on to DK, and here we have a huge spider 7056 now for pre-order with one of my Chinese retail partners. But we in this case around $30. You have to pay for it. 875 pieces. And I guess it's a spider set that is where the reference is not an actual animal out there or an actual insect, but more like a fantastical vibe, maybe kind of Lord of the Rings style. But I guess at the end of the day, it depends on what you make out of it. This set, like I said, 875 pieces. I cannot tell if this has lighting included. The box art suggests this to a certain degree, but I think not. I think this is just creative freedom of the box art. Anyhow, it's not a small set, almost 10 by 10 inches and almost 7 inches in height. So it's not a small set. What is definitely a fantasy set is then the Mountain Dragon 7055. 886 pieces. This one is huge. It's a huge dragon, of course, due to the wings, a wingspan of almost 20 inches or 51 centimeters. So this one is not small, and at least based on these images, however, they look like renderings. So I don't know how accurate this is, but this fabric of the wings looks, at least on these renders, extremely thick, which I think, is this leathery vibe. This could be quite interesting. Most of the times when they do these kind of wings, it's just a cloth fabric. But of course, in reality, it should be, reality in quotes. It should have actually more like a leathery vibe. So yeah, I think that this could be amazing. In general, it has also a small play function so that you can basically make the wings flap. It looks like a pretty large set for only 886 pieces. Of course, the wings drive the optical illusion quite well. Then we have from DK also a sea turtle 6030. I think this one is interesting. It's a bit over the top, if you ask me. All the stuff that is on its back. I guess maybe it's like, with the fishing net and the beer bottle and everything, maybe it's kind of a message behind that one, like, keep our oceans clean. But next to that, the turtle is quite nicely designed. It has 1,271 pieces, and you have like a coral reef ground kind of stand as part of it, but you can remove the set from the stand and also, just swoosh around with the sea turtle itself. It's again not a small set, around 10 by 10 inches or almost 13 inches in height. You can pre-order this one in Asia, starting for around $37. As always, when I talk about prices from Asia, again, I said this before, keep shipping in mind because this could make a huge difference depending on where you lived. Then moving on to Funhole. This is again one of those sets where I don't have any official information from Funhole itself. So this is, as always, Funhole has different releases for the Chinese domestic market and the like Western markets. Of course, with completely different box art and everything. So this is from a Chinese retailer based on the Chinese version, which usually becomes known a few weeks before, maybe sometimes only days before we have the Western version. So please keep some of the information here with a grain of salt. But what we know so far is kind of a bamboo forest cottage kind of building with a Chinese apartment color scheme, which looks really amazing. A 9075 is the number, 2,432 pieces. Of course, lighting included as well. You have this one right now. You can buy it from my Chinese retail partner, BlueBrixx, in this case, for around starting from $180. And yeah, it looks quite nice. I really like the color scheme. I like all the name-giving bamboo trees around the house. So it has quite a nice vibe. Couple of minifigures included, and of course the Funhole party piece lighting. So yeah, I think there's not much to say about it at this point in time. I've not yet decided if I intend to build it, but it is quite a beautiful set. It's not small though. The building itself has roughly, I guess, the shape and size of a modular building, but because of all the bamboo trees around it, I think it's overall a lot larger. So the numbers that I currently have is 15.5 by 17 inches and 14 in height. So that's a lot more than a 32 by 32 start modular building regular would be. Moving on to Lego, and here we have a new art piece, a 31216 Keith Haring, Dancing Figures. That is a set with 1,773 pieces. It's going to release May 15th, so basically around the corner, basically 2 weeks from now, roughly. And Lego is asking for $120 US, 150 Canadian, 105 quid. Check out the currency of your choosing. And what I found personally a bit interesting, or when you look at these pictures right now, they look relatively small. When you start counting studs, you think, okay, this could be a relatively large set and has 1,700 pieces. So that's why I think this is a set where it's interesting to look at the real world commercial pictures that real world in quotes advertising pictures that Lego is doing, these are relatively huge. They come with a stand, but my guess is you can also put them on a wall. They come with 5 instructions for the 5 figures, so you can build this in a group. It's all very, very thought through. What I personally don't like that much is that, and you see this on the picture that I'm currently showing. By the way, I have a video version of this show on, of course, on YouTube. That's the primary platform, but I will also upload one on TikTok and on Spotify. And of course, you have audio versions on all the major podcast platforms. But the picture I'm currently showing is one of the advertisement pictures by Lego where they put it on a wall. And here you have a different angle on these things. And what you can see here is that they're extremely thick. And this is something, I mean, I can understand it. It gives the entire thing, of course, a good robustness. If you only layer this with 1 or 2 layers, first of all, it would be a much cheaper set, A, and B, they have this, of course, there's always a huge risk that this stuff will start warping. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. But especially if you look at this from this angle here, it looks a bit too thick for my taste. But yeah, you can put them on a wall or you can put them on this stand that stands. It's 5 of them that are included. Lego also announced 4 Fortnite sets, 2 small ones, 2 larger ones. That are going to release June 1st. It's kind of the next Fortnite wave. First of all, you have Fortnite, Peely, and Sparkplugs Camp 77075. 3 minifigures included, or 2 minifigures and a skeleton. Peely, of course, and then this dude here, or this girl. I think it's a girl. As always, with so many series outside of Star Wars, very high quality on the minifigure. It looks really, really cool. The builds themselves are relatively simple. It's a small set. Lego is asking for $23 US, only 25 Canadian. I don't know, the reference feels wrong a little bit. Anyhow, 18 quid. Again, check out your currency, depending on where you live. But yeah, it's a relatively small set, nothing special. Then we have the 77076. This is the Burger Restaurant. And this is one of those sets where I would really love if Lego would do all this stuff here that you see printed as actual pet printed pieces. But no, it's going to be stickers because the Burger thing would be really amazing in a pet printed piece. The building itself, the Burger Restaurant, is relatively simple, very shallow, very like Lego playset, Harry Potter like vibe. But I really love the burger. The brick built burger is amazing for such a small one. I mean, I've seen larger ones, but I think Fantasy did once a pretty nice burger with Garfield, with one of their Garfield sets. But this one here is really looking really, really good. The minifigures are amazing. The burger guy with the burger head almost looks like, I don't know, Kermit the Frog, but with a burger head. Looks pretty cool. So yeah, nice minifigures, nice burger. Too many stickers. That's my resume. 77076, and like I said, $65 US. And then we have my personal highlight from this wave, Fortnite Colombo. 77077, an amazing beast. Great color choice. Really like the sand blue, I guess it is, on the back. Looks amazing, but also the purple tone looks really cool, the blue, but also the brick building techniques are amazing. This set has 1084 pieces. It looks like more, I must say. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, I'm a huge fan. Also, the 2 minifigures look quite nice. Again, you know, I have 0 insights into Fortnite, never played it myself. My son is into it, but it's not really my cup of tea. But yeah, I really like the brick design here. I think this is a set that would go also well without a license. Keep in mind, all of these Fortnite sets, you also get in-game stuff like skins and so on and so on. Anyhow, really like Colombo. And then the new top dog of the Fortnite series by Lego, 77078, the Fortnite Mecha Team Leader. I don't know, again, I don't know the context from the game of this figure, but what I can tell you, it's a $250 US set. It's actually not in dollar-euro parity. Usually they are. Like, you know, $250 would mean 250 euros in Europe. It's actually only 230. Most of the times, when there's a difference, then it's more expensive in quotes in Europe. We have this now for May the 4th with all the Star Wars sets, or with many of them. That's just $10 more in Europe for whatever reason. But this one here is the other way around, which is interesting. And quite frankly, $250 for this thing is a bit insane. It has 2,503 pieces, but I don't know. I mean, it's not like Lego is not shy. Lego is never shy of doing this. I mean, they asked for a similar Marvel robot, if you remember, for like $600. What was it? The Hulkbuster? That was completely absurd. But this one here also feels a bit pricey. I think there are Ninjago and Max in similar size that are a lot cheaper. But yeah, I mean, it's a Fortnite mech. It looks very, like, there's a lot of meat to the bone, so to say. It looks very meaty, a lot of pieces, like I said, 2,500. But it's $250 for a Mac. That's actually quite a lot. And like I said, I think it is by far the biggest set. So Fortnite PD Bone was 1,400 pieces. The bus from the first wave was only 954. I mean, of course, it had a bazillion minifigures included. But this thing is a lot. I mean, this is the biggest set. It's bigger than number 2 and 3 combined. So it's quite a large one. Okay, with that, we're moving on to a set which is interesting. I got a hint from the community on this one because I haven't seen it on the Mould King website, not seen it with any like typical retailer. It's only on Amazon, but I think it is a real thing. 21075 from Mould King. This could be an old set, like I said. Because I have a bit of a lack of context on this one. I just saw it on Amazon. But yeah, it's kind of a mechanical robot. It has a ton of motorization in there. I think this thing should have a lot of strength to its electronics capabilities. It has 1,887 pieces. Unfortunately, I don't have very high-res pictures because I have only this Amazon stuff. But yeah, I mean, it looks... I don't even know if this thing has a reference in reality. For me, it looks a bit like hard fiction. But there could be actually like a robot or a prototype that is supposed to look like this. It's not a small set. It's around 10 by 12.5 inches and 11 inches in height. And like I said, a bazillion motors in there. I guess the Accu Pack is going to be the bigger problem here. But anyhow, I've seen this in the Amazon Marketplace in the US, for instance, for $100 US. 95 quid in the British one, or in Canada for 176. That sounds a bit pricey for my taste. Anyhow, let's move on to a couple of insect sets. It seems like a new series by Mould King. 10176 is the ant, for instance. You can buy these in China. Basically, it starts around $11-12. And my understanding is, if I look at them, I think they made 4 of those. And they all come for around 400 pieces. It's always like a plant and then the insect. And it looks like, if you look at these Technic pins, that maybe you can combine 4 of them into like one diorama. I guess that's the idea. So if you're only interested in 1 or 2 of these, you're fine, but you can, I guess, go up to 4 and then combine them. I think I saw somewhere a picture how this would look like, but I don't have one at this point. Similar from the same series. I have only 2 right now, I think, in the ZTB, but the other one is the Cisara. I have no idea if I pronounce this correctly. I'm not really into insects that much. 10177 then, it's 90 more pieces, same price, same concept. And yeah, I guess if you're into insects, this may be really for you. I mean, the brick design is really amazing. Should also maybe go very well with the Lego. I think it was an idea set that Lego did a couple, I think last year, maybe, or the year before, with a couple of insects. So these should go very well together. In general, I think a really cool concept. Having this diorama where you can just have 1 or 2 or maybe 4 of them and then bring them together. Also an interesting series, I think, is these trucks from Mould King. First of all, we have the container truck 24070. Price-wise, starting with slightly above $20 US. This thing has 548 pieces, and it's kind of a minifigure scale truck, if you will. Based on these pictures with the container truck specifically, I cannot really say if what they show on this picture that you can open the container on the backside, if you will, but not if you can also remove the roof of the container, which of course would provide much better, play function and access, if you will. I guess it is, but I can only guess at this point in time. But yeah, it's a nice truck. It's roughly 14 inches in length and 3x4 square, if you will. And then a similar truck is then the heavy-duty motorhome 24071. So I guess you could use this one like, okay, this is not like a huge motorhome. It is, and or it could be like a motorhome for, you know, for vacation, for recreational purposes, or for, I don't know, a film crew driving around, stuff like that. It is, I don't know, a lot. It is a motorhome, I must say, with a lot of utility, like washing machine, coffee machine, a huge kitchen, and then a small bed. So it's a lot about, I don't know, cooking and showering, and not so much about living and sleeping. But nevertheless, I mean, it is a nice truck. Looks quite rugged. The front is very similar to the other one, and then the last but not least, the third one is the fuel tanker truck 24075. 556 pieces, and yeah, similar price point for around $20. You can get these from Chinese retailers. Again, the engine itself looks very similar, but of course it is a tanker truck, so you have the tank on the back. Yeah, here we go. 3 trucks for Mould King. Then we have a hydraulic set. I guess it's more like pneumatic. So it's air driven, not so much fuel or liquid driven. The set itself, but the name is hydraulic lock grapple 17077. As far as I can tell, has no electronics. So it's like, you know, you have these. You have basically manual switches to drive the thing. 866 pieces though. Yeah, it's basically, you know, a lock grabber, if you will, and however it has these pneumatic functions. In size, it's roughly 15 by 36 centimeters or 6 by 14 inches. Of course, it depends on, you know, how far you stretch the arm, etc., etc. And then, last but not least, we have the LTM IIIO crane, now in a third color. So I don't know why Mould King thinks people want to have these in so many different colors. So it's basically the same set as the 17073 and 17074. However, one was yellow, one was or is still red, and then the newest one is in white. As far as I can tell, it's more or less the same set. I think the piece count is, yeah, it's always the same. No, the new one has actually 30 more pieces. They come all in sometimes a bit different price points. So I think if you just want to have the crane, if you just want to have the set, I would recommend to check all of them out and then see, you know, how you can basically which one is the cheapest. I would go for that. But of course, now you have a lot of choice, 3 different colors. In general, as always, when you go on ZTB, you have here for sets like these, the variations tab, where you can basically check out the very, very similar versions. Sometimes it's a different color. Sometimes, like BlueBrixx, just change the piece type or the piece manufacturer, part manufacturer, and sometimes it's, yeah, that is just a different reasons why you might have multiple variations. With that, moving on to a couple of sea animals. First of all, Mould King made a manta ray set 10173. The concept is slightly different compared to the insects. By means, it's not like you don't. I think the idea here is not to connect them with these Technic pins, but of course you can have multiple of those. They are all of them around $20. Again, from Chinese retailers. You have first the manta ray, then you have a sea turtle, which looks also quite nice. Of course, a lot smaller than the DK one we just talked about. 410 pieces actually, and then with 416 pieces you have the squid, which is in a deep red, which is not very authentic, but yeah, I guess it looks nice. With that, moving on to 2 sailboats by Mould King. 10190 is a small one with 1 mast. It has 767 pieces. I guess cloth sails are included as well based on these images. Pricing is starting from 35 euros in this case. And yeah, I think it's a nice and neat boat. It's not small. It is roughly 17 by almost 18 inches in height, so that's and 17 in length, or 44 respectively centimeters. So that is not a small set, but because it is a sailing boat, of course, you have the large rig and the mast and everything. As far as I can tell, based on these images, you don't really have an interior, just a little bit. You can open a couple of hatches and then look on the inside. But of course, it has a lot less pieces than, for instance, the sailboat that was recently that we have recently seen from Funhole, which of course had a full-blown interior. This is, I think, not the case here. However, it can go faster with the twin-masted sailboat 10194. Very similar design, similar concept, but with 2 masts, it's actually bigger, a lot bigger, of course, 893 pieces, not that much more. But from a size perspective, it is a longer ship and it feels like a lot more. However, it has like 17 inches in height and it's 20 inches in length, or 50 centimeters respectively. Then Mould King has also done, it seems, a new roller coaster. It's called the Whirlwind Coaster 11020. It has a very different design concept compared to the previous coaster sets. 1,707 pieces. So the previous ones were extremely large, but also, say, very thinly constructed, i.e. it was like a ton of very large base plates, if you will, introduced. And then you just put the coaster on top of all of these plates. But here you have like a much more beefy sandwich foundation, Mills kind of foundation, with, like I said, a lot more pieces to the bone. It looks a lot more robust, a lot more material for a much smaller coaster. I think that is here the idea. But yeah, I mean, if this is more your cup of tea, this may be for you. But like I said, for instance, this is how previous Mould King roller coasters looked like, which were quite nice sets. A little bit of issues on the technical side, but they work quite well. But they are very, very large, so not everybody may have the space for this one. So the new one looks a lot smaller, maybe the thing for you. Then we have 2 ZHEGAO buses. Both of them seem to be like sightseeing buses, just from different eras, if you will. The one is called the Double Bus 991016. It has 627 pieces, gonna cost you in Asia starting from basically $23. Like this one is the modern version. We have actually over here in Stuttgart driving those around. I never thought that anyone would do sightseeing in Stuttgart, but I just recently saw one of those. So yeah, here you go. If that is something, if you want to have a certain tourist vibe in your brick-built city, this may be for you. Or if you want to go for a slightly older design, for instance, then you may looking into this one here, a 991015. It's called the Travel Bus. That's, however, it is also a sightseeing bus, I would argue, and not really a travel bus. And in fact, the sign on the front of the bus says City Tour. So for me, that is basically, like I said, the same thing as the other set, just maybe 80 years in between. With that, we are done with set updates. Quick reading recommendation. I did review the Wange Stonehenge set 4224, which is actually quite a nice set. It has a few hiccups or a few things that I didn't really like that much. As always, Wange is really, they are specialized on architecture sets. They always put a lot of care in the instructions, showing the architecture reference or historical reference. Basically what Lego is doing also with the architecture sets. So this is really amazing. However, they have an entirely different look and feel. Looks a lot more fresh compared to what Lego is doing. But so that is great. And I think that is always important for architecture, because if you build this kind of stuff, you do this not only for the brick build, but also because you're in love with the reference usually. This is quite cool. It has a few of interesting choices when it comes to how it's built, because as you can see, you basically build the entire platform basically in 2 steps, which is interesting. It's not a problem. It's easily done, but yeah, I guess not everybody is really into this. I had a ton of fun with that. What is kind of awful is that you have, I think, for a set of this size, the largest sticker sheets I've ever seen. Actually, I have 2. What is interesting that I guess Wange figured out that this is kind of problematic. So what the instruction is basically telling you is, okay, first put stickers on all the pieces and then you start building. It still has back separation, so I guess the concept is that you open them all up, then you put stickers on all of them, and then you start building. So it feels like in the instruction like printed pieces, but it's not printed, it's stickers. I didn't use the stickers, and I think it still came out quite well. So that is a good message. You don't need the stickers, it's my opinion. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's Stonehenge, so it's a lot of rocks on a, standing on a hill. So it's not that exciting, but I think Wange did a pretty decent job with it. So you may want to check this review out. With that, we're moving on to MOCs of the week. And here we get started with the Mountain Fortress base upgrade by Metz, 4,772 pieces. The instruction's going to cost you 24 quid, basically. This is interesting. As far as I can tell, it's the 4,772 pieces are only for the base upgrade itself. So the fortress, of course, is not included in this piece count. So it's quite a lot, actually, but the fortress was not small. By the way, we're talking about, of course, the Bricklink Designer Program. Snowy Fortress, which already had a very nice design. And however, I think with this hill or mountain section, it looks even a lot better. There's a lot of interesting building techniques in there, a lot of, let's say, wedge plate work, but also a lot of snot work with slopes. What I really like is the waterfall. I've never seen this design. It is entirely snot, built basically from right to the left. If you look at this picture right now, very detailed. I think it needs a ton of material, but it looks really good. It's a building technique I definitely will try to remember. Yeah, looks really great. There are actually multiple of these waterfalls. Looks really, really cool. Very nice design. And then Rebel Neely is continuing to investing into backend. So I think this designer, I talked about this in recent weeks, has really found like a gold mine, because there's like a ton of stuff he's done now. Very recently, the same thing for the Zelda Deku Tree, for Rivendell, and however also keeps throwing out extensions for backend. And I think, yeah, with every of these extensions, backend looks better, makes more sense. Like I said, you didn't listen to this, I guess, because it was my German review. When I reviewed backend, I said, okay, this is not a good set, but it's a good start to build something truly amazing. And I think this is what Rebel Neely is going for. And yeah, so you may want to check this out. The newest one is the backend expansion, and it's basically making the building itself slightly bigger, which is amazing. Now Bilbo has a place to sleep, which is a good thing, I guess. Then we have the TIE Avenger from Ender Season 2. So I don't want to spoil anything, but I guess this TIE Avenger was already in the trailer. So I guess it's not a big spoiler. This design here is by Thrawn's Revenge, 861 pieces, $15 US for the instructions. Yeah, I mean, it's for sure not the last one we will see. I would also not be surprised if LEGO would make a set one day. However, I guess we would already have seen it. I mean, they have already throwing out the U-Wing, and the U-Wing we haven't even seen yet in the show, at least at the point where I record this news show. Yeah, I guess if they would have planned to make a TIE Avenger, they would have already done it. So maybe not this year, but maybe going forward. And also, of course, it could be interesting. Maybe Disney will use this design more. I think it was really very well made in the show, and I think Thrawn's Revenge has done a great design here as well. Then we have the Falling Water Upscale 1x130 by BlueBrixx, 2,671 pieces. Personally, I think from a, let's say, living home perspective, it's one of the most iconic and beautiful designs ever done on this planet. LEGO has done a set in the past, but it was very, very tiny. So, yeah, very zoomed out, if you will. You couldn't see that much. Wange has done a set. However, I think it had a lot of kings. It was basically made out of panels. So it was enormous for the piece count, but not very robust, not much fun to build it, because it was just too much air in the design, too lofty. Basically, whenever you pressed on a new piece, the entire thing was warping like crazy. It was really not fun. And with so many panels, also didn't look the best. So I think this one here has a good size, 2,500 pieces. For this scale, it looks very, very nice and beautiful, of course, because it's on a mountain, and the designer wanted to focus on the house itself, and of course wanted to have the falling water in the falling water design. as a result, a lot of 3D work had to be done, and now you look on a lot of dark bluish gray plain walls, if you will. So that's a bit of the drawback, but it comes from the original. So maybe I personally would start from this design here and then just make it bigger with more landscaping in order to reduce the amount of gray wall that you're looking into. With that, moving on to Django Slave 1 from BlueBrixx. It seems the designer has used the anniversary Slave 1, which was, of course, Boba Fett's 75243, which I think a lot of people to this day believe is the most beautiful playset they ever did of the Slave 1. I mean, the current one is actually shrink down a little bit, but yeah, this one, the one from 2019. But yeah, if you always want to have the color scheme of Django Fett's one, of course, nowadays quite famous because LEGO will release, I think tomorrow, the new UCS sets. I'm really looking forward to this one. So if you say, okay, maybe UCS set from a size perspective is not my cup of tea or just not in the budget, then this one with 1,041 pieces, maybe for you. $8.50 is the price that BlueBrixx is asking for. And then moving on to St. Peter's Basilica, which again is a beautifully done architecture design. I've built the BlueBrixx set. So BlueBrixx has done St. Peter a couple of years ago, designed by Anton. Was really an amazing set. But I think this one, yeah, looks very beautiful as well. It has 1,445 pieces. And Roberto CNC, which I think is a new account on Rebrickable, is really starting strong with a beautiful architecture design, 15 euros for the instructions. And then we have something for Castle Bernfels. For those of you who don't know what that is actually another castle line by BlueBrixx. So quite famous over here in Germany, and it is a castle design that is much more, let's say, 80s. It has kind of an 80s vibe, very simple. However, it's not using that many panels as Lego did back in the day. It's very sturdy brick built, but clearly focused on kids, I would say. It's a very simple castle design, very robust, a lot of pieces in there, not too crazy building techniques, but rather large pieces. And it's also highly modular. So I did talk about several of these sets in this show in the past. Basically, you can build a castle that goes through your entire house because there's like there are wall extensions and gates and all this kind of stuff, and you can just buy as many as you want and then connect them with Technic pins. And I think the idea of this mock is, okay, let's have a warehouse, like a larger building that you can integrate into the system as well. However, the mock itself, I guess, is kind of independent. Basically, it's these Technic connection points that allow you to connect these things to the castle walls of the BlueBrixx Bernfels concept. It's a nice design. Burg Noppenstein is asking for $8 US, not too shabby. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to explore and also a couple of very interesting building techniques to have this kind of mid-German medieval design, if you will, in your architecture. Last but not least, we have Winter Bay by Lbox82, 5,500 pieces, and I'm not really sure if it's the entire thing or just the foundation with the 5,500, but in a nutshell, you have kind of a winter ski resort kind of vibe on this set. I think this is also one of those sets that if you're planning to build a large diorama or large mock in this style on your own, I think this could also be a nice instruction just to check out the building techniques and you know how it's done. So quite cool. $23 is not really cheap, but I guess if you really want to build it and you need to source 5,500 Lego pieces, I guess 23 euros is the least of your problems. And like I said, there are not that many ski resort mocks. And I think while we are now end of April, this may not be the perfect time to look into a winter diorama. On the other hand, you know, the winter is coming and you need to plan for it. So here you go. This may be something to check out. With that, we are done for today. I hope you liked the show. For those of you who watch this on YouTube, please leave a like or comment, or even better, subscribe to the channel. For all of you podcast listeners, or on which platform you ever listen to this or watch this, follow, rate, subscribe, whatever it is called, like. All of that is, as always, highly appreciated. With that, thanks for listening. See you next week.